All right, guys, welcome back. Um, just a quick recap of Week 6. Um, to be honest, other than I think about three teams, just an ugly, really ugly week. A lot of teams I think definitely had a few dents put in their teams. That's definitely number one. Um, Number two, it's interesting because I firmly believe that you can maybe make the case for definitely maybe one team, but I think everybody else at this stage where we were at last year, there were four teams I think that you saw like championship potential and you saw them as like the four top dogs of the league. It's just a preference of where you want to put them. But due to injuries, due to inconsistency play, to be quite honest with you, I only maybe see one at this point. There are, and then everything else is a lot of ifs that need to happen. I think everything else is kind of clustered into one. So at this point, I believe it is survival of the fittest. And that leads me on to the next point before I get into the matchups. Power rankings is the segment each month. So you had September, now we have October coming up, and then there's going to be November, which is like right before the playoffs. So that power ranking segment will definitely be let me think. The week of Halloween, so it's that Thursday. Halloween is the 31st, which is a Monday. So that Thursday will be the power rankings segment. There's just a lot of like question marks I think all over right now. And there's some teams that don't have a winning record, but I believe that their stock is trending up. And then there are some with a winning record, and I think their stock is trending down. So it's going to be interesting to see how these next 7 weeks play out before playoffs because there's a lot of uncertainty. So that's just my quick take. Okay, so our first matchup that I'm going to break down for this week, again, I'm doing this a little bit earlier because it's the only time I really have to do it. A lot of question marks actually all over on this game. I don't know if people are going to suit up, if people aren't going to suit up. So it's too early. This is being filmed at like early Wednesday afternoon. So let's jump right into it. It's Brian, and now that he has this matchup, he's probably very fortunate that for some reason, I don't know how, I don't think I've ever seen a team that's been projected 148 after a big Thursday night, and then the team gets like a 96 projected point total, and that 96 projected point total was the victor. I don't think I've ever seen something like that happen. But you know what? Now that you have the worst team in the league coming up on the schedule, you have a great chance to go 5-2 with a winning record. And there's a lot of question marks right now, and I think he even knows that as well. But that's very fortunate here. So this looks like on paper, it looks like this should be another easy matchup. But let me get into the quarterback play. It's Blake Bortles taking on Eli Manning. Now for Paul, I actually think Paul wins this quarterback matchup by far. Um, it really sucks because now that everybody is kind of cock blocking people on quarterbacks, you kind of have no choice but to bite the bullet with Blake Bortles. But he's just looked so awful. I think other than the Indianapolis game where he didn't even look that spectacular, I think he got very generous because he was very fortunate. Excuse me, because Vontae Davis was not on Allen Robinson. Cromartie was when he was still part of the team. Anyway, I actually like Eli Manning. I think last week you finally saw the potential, which was supposed to be Eli Manning. I know they go into London early game, but even in a good matchup against the Oakland Raiders, I don't trust Blake Bortles. I think he's not even matchup proof anymore. He had a decent matchup. Actually, the Bears are kind of underrated, but I think if I'm looking at a quarterback that I have to definitively say is the clear cut victor in this one, give me Eli Manning. I just like the fact that him and Odell are now on the same page. The receivers, Emmanuel Sanders and Allen Robinson taking on Amari Cooper and Alshon Jeffrey. Um, so Sanders is a little bit dinged up. Um, it sounds like the Houston pass defense is kind of for real. I was not buying into it, but they do have a knack for taking away big plays. So I'm not really huge on Emmanuel Sanders. And Allen Robinson's value is slowly diminishing because I think I'm going to use the same. analysis as how I would treat Kirk Cousins, and I'll apply that to Blake Bortles. They're locking on to one guy, like with Jordan Reed and Allen Robinson, and it's not their fault. It's just that defenses are primarily focusing on stopping those players. Robinson really even hasn't really had a huge breakout of a game. I mean, he had a two touchdown game against Baltimore, but the yardage really wasn't even there either. So to me, I think Allen Robinson at this point is a touchdown dependent wide receiver. I can't even say one. I'd say two. Um, it's very unfortunate, but this looks like it should be a matchup where he would produce. And now we're talking about Amari Cooper and Alshon Jeffrey. Now, speaking of a guy who I don't know if he's hurt, Jeffrey's not getting a lot of looks. Then you have Amari Cooper. I actually do like Cooper's been solid the last 2 weeks. It's going to be interesting to see if Jalen Ramsey lines up against him or Crabtree. I think you have to take who's the hottest receiver. I would expect Ramsey to be on Cooper more than I would Michael Crabtree, and Jalen Ramsey has actually been pretty solid. So I kind of like Crabtree a little bit better than Cooper this week. But with that being said, due to the uncertainty of Emmanuel Sanders and Simeon, either just didn't look that great. I think this is a draw on an even split because I'm not big on any of the wide receivers. LeGarrette Blount and Doug Martin taking on Terrence West and Theo Riddick. Now, this is very crucial because I think Brian really needs Theo Riddick out there. But I want to talk positive. I was fully wrong. I'll fully admit it. I just thought he has always been nothing but a backup running back and a journeyman. But if you get the opportunity and you get the volume, you're fantasy relevant, good, just not in real life. And that is Terrence West. He's getting the bulk of the carries. I'm very surprised Kenneth Dixon has not even taken away third down looks. Buck Allen didn't do jack shit. He's getting the bulk of the carries, and I think until one of the backup running backs breaks a big play, this is going to be his backfield. Only bad thing about it, though, is against the New York Jets. I don't like the way Flacco runs an offense on the road, so I'm not big on Terrence West. And they actually are going back to the field they just played on, so it's kind of interesting. I don't think that's ever happened in a 2 week span. So Terrence West, he's projected at 11. I'm probably going to say maybe he gets over that, and I'd say only maybe 10 to 12. I don't know. I'm just not huge on him. Theo Riddick, if he plays, I think that's a great matchup against the Washington Redskins. He's just very dangerous out of the backfield, catching screens, everything else. It's not bad. On the flip side of things, LeGarrette Blount on the road, not really a great formula for success. He's very touchdown dependent, but if Landry Jones stinks up really bad in this game, I wouldn't be surprised if he found the end zone. And Doug Martin, if he is out there against the San Francisco 49ers, I think he's clearly going to have a big, big, big role. Now, time for me to pick who I think has the advantage. Believe it or not, because Blunt is very touchdown dependent. I don't know if you can consider, because West, I think, gets like 10 points if he doesn't get a touchdown. So he's a little bit better than like a Jonathan Stewart. That's my personal opinion. But I do think Theo Riddick can be kind of serviceable. So it's a coin flip with Blunt. And if I predict him to get a touchdown in this game, because I don't know how Pittsburgh is going to do, I actually think you have to kind of call a draw as well in the running back spots. Because I think Doug Martin and Theo Riddick could cancel each other out. Same thing with Blunt and West. Tight end goes to, well, actually, if Reed is not able to suit up, then I can't even say that Antonio Gates is a clear-cut winner, because then I think Brian would move Delaney Walker and probably go Rashard Matthews after he scored. So, but if Reed suits up, it's an automatic Brian victory. Even though Reed has not been that good this year, Antonio Gates, I think you're just filling in that spot because it's just not good for him anymore. Flex spots, you have Walker and Jennings against Snead and Diggs. Okay. So Snead and Diggs are actually interesting options. Philly has kind of limited big plays to wide receivers, and Diggs has just been very, very quiet. Snead also been quiet since returning off of the injury, which I don't know. I don't know how to really protect much of that. Walker should bounce back against the Indianapolis Colts. Jennings, to me, looks like the primary back right now, but I still think he's not even 100%. So if I had to by that logic, I can't even pick a victor because I'm not even huge on any of these guys. But if I had to pick one guy I'd be very confident in overall, I don't know. This is just not a very appealing matchup on both ends due to bye weeks and injuries. Um, I would suspect if Will Fuller did suit up and he was clear, active to go, that definitely would change my opinion on Brian's side of the ball. But the Denver defense against Brock at home, give me them as a defensive stand matchup. So now it's time for me to pick a victor. If this was any other team, not and if it's not owned by Paul, I actually do like Paul some of his roster guys. Like for example, I think the keys to victory, Eli Manning's got to put up insane numbers like he did. Cooper's got to win that matchup against Ramsey, and if he does, it's going to be a long bomb. Doug Martin, I actually think has to produce on a workload, and especially with no Charles Sims. And I think the X factor would have to be Willie Snead in the flex. If you go to Brian's side of the ball, the one thing I think he needs the running backs to hit because Brian's flexes are definitely his most questionable thing, and I think he knows that as well because he needs those RBs to step up each and every week because it's never a guarantee with the flex spots in this one. But because of the whole bad luck thing and the quote unquote curse of Paul, I'll still ride it. He's 0-6, so give me Brian. All right, here we go. Here we go, guys. This is my next matchup I want to call on this one. And if you heard my quick take, this is what I am talking about right here. And I know one of these teams is definitely going to like deny the fact that that's even true. But hold on for a second, because I actually do think despite a winning record at 4-2, things are not looking so promising for the champ right now after an injury news just appeared. And then if we go onto the other side of the ball, there are a lot of sleeper, flexy, sexy, wide receiver two, running back two guys on the harsh side of the ball. And I actually believe that team is trending upwards. As he'll probably deny it because he always thinks that, oh, my team's done kind of thing. But like the last 2 weeks have been very, very, very good. So let me get into this matchup. No matter who Harsh puts in at quarterback, he clearly is playing the cock blocking, fuck you, you're not getting a quarterback against me for just this week. It's a dick move, but it's a move that works. And as you see, Matt's team's only projected 103 because of that. And Harsh, no matter what quarterback you play, I don't like Trevor Siemian that much. I think the 1-4 touchdown game was kind of an outlier for Trevor Siemian. This guy is a game manager. He's not that special. I think Siemian is like a little worse than Joe Flacco, in my opinion. So Derek Carr or Matt Ryan, give me Harsh. The wide receivers, though, because Jarvis Landry is pretty nasty. Don't get me wrong on that. I want to talk about Cameron Meredith. All right, so Cameron Meredith, really like this guy. Interesting. I didn't think that somebody who would step up in a role nobody knew about him comes in and is just really, really good. And he's outproduced Alshon Jeffrey as the number one in 2 weeks in a row. Something to keep an eye on. But the elite talent of A.J. Green and Brandon Marshall. A.J. Green against the Cleveland Browns. Now, historically, he hasn't even been good against Joe Hayden, but Joe Hayden sucks now. So I like A.J. Green to have a monster A.J. Green game. Brandon Marshall, I actually do like as well, even with the Geno Smith quarterback change. Because he's just going to get peppered with targets. He's going to be fine. Jarvis Landry against the Buffalo Bills would seem like it's a decent matchup. And Cameron Meredith against that Green Bay secondary would also seem like a decent matchup. But I think if Landry and Meredith both hit, I think it's 15 each. Whereas on the other side of the ball, I can see 20 plus potential from both of these guys in this matchup. So give me Morris on the receiver spot. I can't even really talk up the running backs for Morris right now after Eddie Lacy went down. Tevin Coleman is such a boom or bust running back too, though. I think Coleman, Theo Riddick, and there's another one. Maybe those are the only two. I could be leaving somebody out of this equation, but I think Coleman and Riddick are like boom or bust RB2s. they can explode or do nothing. Like, and in a game at home against the San Diego Chargers, I wouldn't be surprised if Coleman found the end zone. I'll actually say he gets around 17 points. Frank Gore against the Tennessee Titans, the underrated run defense of the Tennessee Titans. I'm not liking it. I think they're going to have to rely on the air attack, definitely. David Johnson to me is just. I don't know how anybody took any other running backs over David Johnson. If you were buying into the Chris Johnson stupid lead back hype, you're retarded. This is probably the best pick I think in the draft by far as where he fell. So congratulations there, and I do think he'll find success against the Seattle Seahawks, even though the Seahawks are a tough team to play against. And then James White, as long as Deion Lewis is out, he's gonna get his like 8 to 12 points. So with that being said, I gotta take Harsh on the running back matchups. Rudolph and Gary Barnage. Yeah, I kind of like Rudolph just a little bit better than Barnage. This is where the things go south, though. Demarius Thomas and Jeremy Maclin taking on Bernard Perriman and Chris Thompson. Um, Chris Thompson to me always seems like he could be such a solid like flex guy, but I'm not huge on him. Perriman could have potential to go over the top against the New York Jets. I actually think that they're going to try to use him a lot more than Mike Wallace. I know Wallace seemed like he had a bigger game against the Giants because of the numbers, but Perriman's numbers were also getting his number was getting called on a lot of plays. But I just like Macklin and Demarius Thomas. I don't see if Bashard Perriman hits, it'll be on one play. It'll be like that Philip Dorsett game that you had against Brian, something like that. But I feel like Demarius Thomas has a good bounce back game. And at this point, I actually think that Jeremy Macklin would catch a touchdown. This is like the greatest matchup in the world. I know that Kansas City likes to run the ball, but I just think it's time. I don't even. Oh, Macklin did have a touchdown, but he's been due for a touchdown. Bottom line, so give me the vintage one there. Um, Defensively, I gotta go with Morris. If we're gonna talk about defenses, because Palmer is prone to turning. He's just not good this year. And Philadelphia against Minnesota, I don't think that defense is going to be in any position to win that game at all. Due to a lot of questionable moves. If I'm going down the keys to victory, number one, Harsh has to win the quarterback matchup by at least 10 points. Like he needs like an explosive game. Landry and Meredith have to hit their 15. Johnson should be fine, and Macklin would have to score. The keys for Matt, I think you have to play boomer bust in the flex spots. Like when you don't know what to do, that's fine. I totally get that. I do like Green and Marshall, but everything else to me, I think there's a lot that needs to happen, and because of that, I gotta pick. Oh baby, and then he finds himself as a 3-4 record. There's just a lot of question marks on the other side of the ball. I'll take the vintage one. All right. So this next matchup right here, I actually would if I actually don't have a matchup of the week. There's something special that I have for the matchup of the week this week. But from points from last week, this this matchup is very interesting. Um, you have one team that, to me, I wasn't too big on a bounce back candidate. Maybe I'm starting to change my tone a little bit. Because there are a lot of things that are working out that I didn't think were going to work out. And then this other team, I actually think has championship potential. However, um, they're going to pull the fucked by best division card. So I'm talking about Johnny taking on Rob. Both of these teams had valiant efforts last week. Um, and I actually did pick Johnny to win that matchup, but the first win of the year goes to Allen for him. So with this matchup, there's a lot of things that are not there for Johnny in this one. But let me just break it down. Russell Wilson. Oh, hey, whoa, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Where is Russell Wilson in my starting lineup? Is this Andy Dalton? Ginger and Ginger Power? I like it. Okay, so I didn't even know that. I had no idea that there was a quarterback change at all. Um, well, wow. Andy Dalton taking on Tom Brady. The matchup would dictate for Andy Dalton to do amazing. Um, it's against the Cleveland Browns. Nothing to be said there. But Brady against the Schittsburg Steelers. Right now they're Schittsburg because there's no Ben, so it's Schittsburg. Um, so for that being said, even though the matchup is good for Andy Dalton, I can't buy into that guy. I think Dalton's upside, I think, is 2 touchdowns. He's going to get 270 yards, give me 2 touchdowns and a pick, which isn't bad. But Tom Brady on the other side can have potential to get 3 to 4 touchdowns. And by that logic, I got to go with my man, Mr. Brady. Cobb and Mike Evans taking on Julian Edelman and Kenny Britt. So Kenny Britt is somewhat fantasy relevant. It's been a while since that's happened. I know he's had 2 bad games I think all season out of 6, which would mean that he's doing pretty good on those other games or serviceable, I might add. To be quite honest with you, I am not big on the 2 wide receivers on both ends. Randall Cobb and Julian Edelman. I'm not. I don't know what it is with Julian Edelman. People put him down as a bust candidate. I wasn't buying it, but he's been very, 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 very quiet. But it's against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Nothing should scare me, and I don't like Randall Cobb. So, if anything, I'd say Edelman would get like 13 points, and Cobb would get something like 8. But I love me some Mike Evans against the 49ers, bitch. And by that logic, even if Kenny Britt, I don't see him breaking, like doing what he did last week against the New York Giants secondary. Give me the wide receiver advantage to share. Lamar Miller and Mark Ingram taking on Christine Michael and Devonta Freeman. Okay. Well, you got your wish, Jay. Lamar Miller finally did something good. Um, but I think he goes back down to that like 12 to 15 range against the Denver Broncos. He was worked a lot against the Indianapolis Colts. Any running back is going to look good against the Indianapolis Colts. But I do think Miller is still going to be a high-end RB2. He's a lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon back to RB1 again. I'm going to play a little cautiously. In this matchup, he'll probably be on the RB2 spectrum. Mark Ingram, wow. I actually thought that this was the one piece I really liked in the 3-way deal that you got along with Kelvin Benjamin. I actually believe that you won that deal by far. But Ingram is just getting fucked on touchdowns, man. You had John Kuhn 1 week, and then why is Colby Fleener rushing in a touchdown? Like, what did this guy do to like not get a goal line carry? Like, I've never been a big Mark Ingram supporter, but this is just fucked up beyond belief. Sean Payton just might just hate him for fantasy purposes. I don't know. Because of the limited touchdown upside, I think there's a clear-cut winner here with the running back situation with Christine Michael and Devonta Freeman. I actually think both of them find the end zone at least once. I cannot say the same for Mark Ingram and Lamar Miller. Tight end, Tyler Eifert is out. So, or even if he does play, there's no way he outperforms Rob Gronkowski. So Mike Wallace looks like he could have a nice matchup against the New York Jets. And yes, yes, yes. I'll say that if Steve Smith is officially out of this game, which looks like he's not going to play again, Mike Wallace hit over the top, will probably find the end zone. Robert Woods, I am not so big on. And yes, I know this is a bye week filler lineup. I get that. That's why my tone is I'm not bashing you by any means. It just means that you just have some bad spots that you have to fill in. It sucks. Everybody goes through it. Spencer Ware and Sterling Shepard. Spencer Ware will find at least one touchdown in this game. I think the Saints get annihilated like bad. It's going to be like 45 to 13. It's just not going to be a good game. Sterling Shepard, though, You traded for this guy hoping that Beckham would still suck, and in return, Beckham's done amazing, and Shepard's been a little bit quiet. I'm actually not big at all. I'm actually going to call a draw because I think Woods and Shepard can cancel each other out. But if Mike Wallace hits a deep bomb over the top, Spencer Ware would cancel him out. So I think it's a draw, but there's always potential for a two touchdown game with Spencer Ware. Um, so streaming against Stafford 2 weeks in a row, Curfy, I think that's a fucking bad matchup. So I gotta nah, but Jay, I'm very intrigued. Very intrigued. How dare you go against your favorite quarterback in the Arizona Cardinals defense? I don't know. That's interesting because I'm actually not huge on the Cardinals, but that is always subject to change. Well, when I pick a winner in this one, keys to victory for Johnny. I think it's going to be a big Mike Evans game. I think wow. I think Mark Ingram finds at least 10 points, but I'm not so big on him now that he doesn't score any touchdowns anymore, and neither does Lamar Miller. Yes, Jay, if you had Ezekiel Elliott and Kelvin Benjamin this week, my tone definitely would have changed a lot in this week. But due to the bad matchups and the bye week blues, there's a lot that needs to happen for you. Going on the flip side of it, Brady is Brady. I think last week was probably the best New England stack that Coffinator had. Brady went off, Gronk went off. Edelman really didn't, but Gronk went off so much that it kind of was like those points were split in half. Um, for the time being, I actually do like Christine Michael. Coffee's already pulled the RB1 card. Whatever. And then Devonta Freeman, I think in a good matchup, the guy is a stud. I just think there's too much firepower to handle in this one. And like I said, I actually do like both of these. One of these teams I do like in the long run, flat out. That's Johnny. I actually love his team a lot. Coffee, Coffee, I think needs a lot of wins and a lot to happen, but, but I do like a lot of the interesting pieces that are falling into place here. So maybe, just maybe, this team could find a way in shit. Okay, we are now officially into the next matchup of the week. We got something interesting going here. We have one team that looks to be on a nice winning streak. I believe, is it 2 or 3 games? I don't remember. Bottom line, they are first place in their division. Oh, it's a 3-game winning streak. The other team had their winning streak snapped at 3 and finds himself at 500. We're talking about first place Max and Lewis Todd. So, my first thing I want to say is, fuck you. I really needed Tyrod Taylor, so fuck. On the other side of the ball, we have officially lost faith in the bad man, and rightfully so. And also, I was banking on nobody ever picking up Phillip Rivers, but fuck. Anyway, that's where we're here now, is Tyrod Taylor taking on Phillip Rivers. Um, while I do think Tyrod Taylor is a great floor kind of quarterback rest of season, I actually think he's like high teens into like 22 points a week. And it's consistent, and that's what you want to see out of a quarterback spot. I actually do think that San Diego will be playing from behind a lot in this game, and I actually think Rivers has like a 30-point game in this game. Because if you think about it, yes, they have Desmond Trufant, but they have nobody else. And if they even decide to take out Travis Benjamin or Tyrell Williams, they're incorporating a lot of more weapons now. Speaking of, Inman is always a good bet to go over the middle of the field. I actually wouldn't mind him this week. Tyrell Williams, Travis Benjamin, the emergence of Hunter Henry, and Gordon out of the backfield. I actually do think that I'm very surprised that Phillip Rivers is still fantasy relevant without Keenan Allen. Very surprised. So that's just my quick take there. I actually like the quarterback advantage for Lewis. Okay, so it looks like it's Tavon Austin. You just gotta plug him in and hope that he plays him. But actually, this is the one week. Okay, I don't ever predict Tavon Austin. I think when Lewis, you've listened to all my matchups. This is definitely a week that he will hit. Though the Giants suck against like midget wide receivers over the middle of the field. I actually like Tavon Austin a lot, but I fucking hate Allen Hurns. Now back to Max's side of the ball. Odell Beckham and Jordy Nelson. Oh my god, it's a match made in heaven. Guys, did you guys know if both of them hit, I can hit like 60 points? Okay, yeah, you're right, Max. I actually, Jordy Nelson is not a bad play. Odell Beckham is not a bad play. Clear cut advantage here for the wide receiver spots. No more crying with Todd Gurley. Oh, yeah, Todd Gurley. And Gio Bernard against Carlos Hyde and Jerick McKinnon. So I actually think that this comes down to Todd Gurley versus Carlos Hyde because I actually do think the other two can kind of cancel each other out. They're kind of the same mold of running back. Bernard looks like he's got a great matchup, but Jeremy Hill could fuck him over with touchdowns. Same goes for Jerick McKinnon. So I think both of them logically would cancel each other out. And then it comes down to who has the better game, Todd Gurley or Carlos Hyde. Believe it or not, I'm going to pick Carlos Hyde. And the reason being is Giants have been very serviceable against the run. I know Terrence West was the best running back against them, but Terrence West, the Ravens had a lot of penalties that drove them to the field and whatnot. Even if Gurley finds a touchdown, I know Tampa's got a respectable run defense. Somebody's got to keep me updated because I really don't even care about the Buccaneers defense, but I know Gerald McCoy is hurt. I don't know if he's back yet. And if Gerald McCoy is not back, Carlos Hyde. I mean, guys, Cameron Artis-Payne had 2 touchdowns against these guys. Give me Carlos Hyde. Jack Doyle and Travis Kelce. Okay, so this is actually kind of interesting, but I actually like the opportunity that Doyle has against the Tennessee Titans. But Doyle, to me, is not a guy who stretches the field. So I do think the yardage is going to be limited. I actually think that when I'm looking at the Kansas City Chiefs, they're always like that hot team off of a bye. I think that Jamal Charles, Spencer Ware, Travis Kelce, Jeremy Maclin, all their playmakers, I think, score in this one. I really actually do believe that. So this is another week where you feel optimistic about Travis Kelce, but he might burn you next week. So give me tight end advantage, Lewis Todd. So now it comes down to Terrell Pryor Sr. and Mohamed Sanu taking on Chris Hogan and Pierre Garcon. Well, okay. This is what I have to say about this. If Terrell Pryor does not suit up, this is not good for Max. But very sneaky guy, South Brunswick's own Mohamed Sanu. I actually think that Casey Hayward now has to be the guy to shadow people. It's not Jason Verrett. And Hayward has been very, very, like one of the biggest surprise free agent signings of the offseason. Julio Jones will still get his no matter what. But I actually think Mohamed Sanu kind of finds the end zone. I'm gonna make that my bold prediction. Going on the flip side, Chris Hogan. Okay, so he did good one week. I don't know if he's still dinged up, but this is a guy who can stretch the field vertically. In a matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers, why not? But I just think that this is a big game for Rob Gronkowski. He destroyed them last time. I don't know. I can't really predict Hogan because there's just not a lot of usage for him right now. And Pierre Garcon always is like 7 or 8 points every week. But I do think that it all comes down to Terrell Pryor's health in this one because if Pryor is out there, he's going to be a stud. But this is where things get interesting. The Baltimore defense might be a difference maker here. For one, you gotta hope that Jimmy Smith actually suits up. Because if Jimmy Smith is unable to suit up in this one, there could be a lot of scary plays in this one because Brandon Marshall is just a stud. Geno Smith might throw a few picks, Don't get me wrong, but it could be very, very risky if Jimmy Smith is not out there. You saw what Odell Beckham did last week, so I'm just throwing that out there. Now I have to pick a clear cut winner. While I do like somewhat advantages by Lewis, I don't think the advantages are that much greater than Max's players. However, if Pryor sits out, this is going to be a down to the wire type of game. But due to the explosions of Odell Beckham and Jordy Nelson, somehow Max finds his sixth win of the season. Okay, now when we look at record wise, this to me looks like it could be matchup of the week potential, but there are just a lot of bad matchups on every side of the ball for both of these teams, which is why I am not picking this game as the matchup of the week. There is also a quarterback hurt, which is why I'm not picking this as the matchup of the week. And one team has to roll with Alex Smith, which is just, it's like being on welfare. And then you have freaking the other team who played very serviceably, is 4-2 in the best division. So a win is a win, and it helps any possible way. Talking about my team taking on David's team. Now, I had probably one of the strangest losses I think I could ever remember. I'm not even pissed. I was just very puzzled as to what the fuck just happened type of thing. And I know I'm still the leader in points, but that is going to change. That definitely going to change. I think that explosion games where it's 170 and up, I think that team definitely takes a decline, and it's more of like a 120 to 140 at best type of week. But I actually think that's the same that can be said for the other team on the other side of the ball, Mr. David Sutton. Let me get into the matchups really, really quickly. Alex Smith versus Matt Stafford. Look, I'm honestly just being optimistic with Alex Smith. This is the easiest matchup in the world. Like, get your 200 yards. Just give me 2 touchdowns, bro. That's all I'm talking about. Staffy, bitch, he's just going to chuck the ball a ton, so give me Matt Stafford. Deshaun Jackson, yo, the Detroit Lions are very leaky this season. And Jay Gruden talks about how they want to get Deshaun Jackson more involved. I think with the problem with Deshaun Jackson is that Kirk Cousins is very hesitant to throw a deep ball. But look, if Deshaun Jackson is like 20 yards open downfield, you can't miss him, and that could happen. Okay. The news, the stupid highlight, the guy everybody's talking about, Ty Montgomery. It's not 19 anymore. It is now 16. I can kind of live with the 16 points. I don't think this dude gets any yards. I actually think if we're talking about Montgomery against the Bears, look, he might catch 10 passes, don't get me wrong, but those might go for like 70-something yards. It's a very serviceable day as a flex spot, and this guy can kind of be like a savior at flex. Like, he could be like 10 to 12. I don't see any touchdown upside with him, though. I actually do like Montgomery, to be quite honest. Antonio Brown, look, Antonio Brown is the best wide receiver in football. And yes, the narrative is he was shit without Ben Lethlean. But two of those games were with stupid Michael Vick. And I believe 2.5 were with Jones, Landry Jones. I don't know. Yes, I actually, now to be quite honest with you, I think Brown should be at 15 points because I actually think that the way this offense is going to develop, because it's an unproven rookie, or not a rookie, but an unproven quarterback. There's probably going to be more screen passes to Antonio Brown. I actually think that Brown puts up a similar Ty Montgomery line. I wouldn't be surprised. But he is at home, and he is the guy who's going to call for the ball no matter who is the quarterback of that team. It's just funny how I'm talking about Antonio Brown now. But I actually love T.Y. Hilton this week against the Tennessee Titans. That is a guy that on paper and against the matchups, it looks very promising. Let's talk about one of the running back studs. I think there's 5 of them. I'm talking about LaShawn McCoy. I mean, this guy's a stud. And then you got Darren Sproles, So Sproles is kind of, you got to hope for a lot of dump offs. Jordan Howard, we're going to talk about it just a little bit. Look, the guy needed somebody to spell him. I mean, he had over freaking week one, he was 63 of 65 snaps. Week two, oh no, that was week two. Week one, he got the majority of the backfield, and he was the only one that was healthy. That was the game they had Joey Bell. It was the Detroit Lions game. And now Kadeem Carey spells him just a little bit. That's what the rookie's going to need. Above him, we have Melvin Gordon. You know what? The volume is there for both of these backs, and which makes them like fringe RB2, RB1s because of the volume that they get. But I think McCoy is such a stud that this could be like. Nah, I'm just kidding. Well, McCoy might be good, but if my running backs would win this advantage, I think it would only be by about in the range of like 5 to 10. Zach Ertz against the Minnesota Vikings, I don't like that. And the new Charger tight end, Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry looks like he's pretty solid, so I'll talk him up there. But this is what I'm talking about right here, man. Antonio Brown has a bad matchup because of the quarterback. Marvin Jones is still producing despite not catching for any yards. I mean, he's gotten 2 touchdowns in back-to-back games, but the yardage has gone way downhill. But you know what? Now with Golden Tate finding his stride, maybe Marvin Jones is able to get his against the Washington Redskins. Not really sure. I know they've been kind of solid against wide receivers, but Hopkins against the Denver Broncos, that's what I'm talking about. Bad matchup. Fitzgerald on paper, this looks like a really bad matchup, but I don't think Seattle is as dominant as people still think they are. And Doug Baldwin, to me, is the biggest mystery due to the fact that you don't know what's going to happen with Patrick Peterson. Will he follow him around the field? I don't know. So I am not going to. This is like the flexes are the biggest difference maker in my opinion in this matchup because they to me have a big question mark. And of course we have the Minnesota Vikings defense against a rookie quarterback. I know Wentz has been really nice. This could be pretty bad though for him. I don't know. And David doesn't have a defense yet, so it'll be interesting to see what he does there. But yeah, this to me, there's not a lot of optimistic match. I think the best matchup to me in this game would have to clear cut go to LaShawn McCoy. I think he has the best matchup, and I think the T.Y. Hilton has the best matchup on my side of the ball, which means that both of those guys have to hit. Because if one of those guys does not hit, well, then you need the question marks to hit, and then it becomes a well this, well that. It's just going to be interesting to see what actually happens during this week's matchup. So we'll see what happens there. And of course, before I get off, I cannot mention about last year. I congratulated you. The curse was officially broken. I had like a 9-game winning streak. It was like 9-0 all time, but David finally broke it. So congrats. But this is a new week. This is a new year. We'll see what happens. Okay. So the matchup of the week. This ain't even a matchup. This family business. We're talking about the first win. We're going to the playoffs. Family business and shit. The Cousins Bowl. You always got to hype up the Cousins Bowl here. And the reason I'm putting this up, congratulations on your first win of the season, Allen. A job well done, well deserved. You just that was a very very confidence booster victory right there. And now we have the Cousins Bowl, which is Mr. Andre Jones, which to me looks like that one team as of right now. They're hitting their strides. I think the only thing that is very, very questionable with this team is always the last flex. But when you're hitting on every side of the ball, I'd rather have just the last flex be my question mark. Congratulations, bro. Let's break into the matchup. You're going to call me crazy for this one, but give me Mariota in this quarterback matchup. I am not big on with Drew Brees on the road at all. Those 40-plus games, you can forget about it. I'm going to say 18 to 22 for Breeze. Mariota's got very, very good potential against the Indianapolis Colts. It's very interesting since he's gone off the last 2 weeks. I think Murray's been the one who's been kind of quiet. But you know what? This is the Indianapolis Colts, so I do still see Murray getting his. I'll say Mariota. Mariota outscores Drew Brees by like 2 points, so it's not even that big of a matchup. But there's no way I'm predicting another 30 plus point victory for Marcus Mariota. Okay, so without a doubt, Julio Jones and Brandon Cooks like annihilate Tyrell Williams and Michael Thomas. DeMarco Murray, C.J. Anderson taking on Matt Jones and Devontae Booker. I am not buying into the Devontae Booker startable stats yet, even though he's getting catches and whatnot. This is still C.J. Anderson's team. I just like Devontae Booker as a stash guy in case Anderson was to get hurt. Matt Jones, like, I remember I talked about it. It was so disrespectful to give him a 6 point projected week against the Philadelphia Eagles. But even if it was a bad matchup, he still outperformed. You don't give a starting running back 6 points. I mean, I don't even like Matt Jones, and I think that was just a little bit disrespectful. But needless to say, the running back matchup is clear with Andre. Martellus Bennett versus Jimmy Graham. This is a nice tight end matchup. I actually think that Graham and Bennett could cancel each other out. Okay. This is why this becomes very interesting. Jamal Charles and Le'Veon Bell versus Michael Crabtree and Humphreys. I think that Bell and Charles combined could combine for a minimum of like 40 plus points, and I think that there's potential to go more. While I don't think Charles gets the snap shares that he was, I could see Charles on 7 carries getting like 80 yards and a touchdown, and Bell just does everything. So I really like that. So now, if we're gonna talk about defenses, I actually do think Oakland's kind of sneaky against the Jaguars. Buffalo, yeah, no, Buffalo's actually really good against Miami, so that could also cancel each other out. I love Josh Lambo, by the way. I don't know why he's projected at 6. Josh Lambo should be one of those quarterbacks who gets like a 10 plus projected kicker week because he's money. All right, let's talk about Drew Brees. All right, so the keys to victory for Allen. Mariota's got to produce. Jimmy Graham's got to win that tight end battle. Charles and Bell got to be like they're acting like Charles and Bell. Tyrell Williams could be very, very sneaky, though, if he doesn't see Trufant. And I don't expect him to. And then Michael Thomas has to find the end zone, but I'm not very big on any Saints guys. The running back firepower, I think Andre might be the most consistent explosive team because it's rightfully so. I think he's won games where Brees has only put up 15 points, and that's why when Brees is at home, this team is going to put up an outburst like 140 plus. If Brees is on the road, I still think he puts up a very serviceable fantasy day. So this might be another close matchup. And yes, the stock is trending up on Allen, but I think it's just too late at this point. Give me the Dre to improve to 6-1. So guys, thanks again. I look forward to seeing what happens this week. Peace.